This is Roger, thanks for dropping by and broke my neck over the heaters there. Today's going to be a bit strange for the Sunday chat. Some guys a couple of doors down, they're relaying the patio. Well, to put the new one down, the old one's got to come up, and there's lots of hammering and bashing going on. They're on a break at the moment, so they started at 9:30, it's 10 o'clock, so I expect they're having their first cup of tea. Then they'll have another one at 10:30, another one at 11. They might get some work done in there, but all the hammering could restart again any time, so keep it relatively short. And what I thought today is, first off, the end of this video is going to be a clip recorded on the computer, which is, it's a document that was sent from a viewer about CITES, and it's a detailed document, and by getting it into this video, first of all I'm doing what I was asked to do and sort of letting people know, but in addition to that, if anybody else asks about what's all this CITES stuff, why is it a problem, I can just point them at the end of this video and not have to keep going over it over and over again, which is what I'm having to do now. But it is annoying, you know, I mean there's quite, you know, when I've had my plants to go sessions, there's quite a few people in the EU who have had my plants. You know, had a box full or a couple or whatever. That can't happen anymore, you know. So if I ever do get rid of any plants that are usable, not rubbish stuff, I can only do that for people in the UK now. That's it. That's now my market. That's all I can do. So it's a shame, but that's how it is. And if you watch the end of this video, you'll understand why. That's how it's going to stay as well. But I thought I'd do a little bit of maintenance today. Mainly because this plant, which is very attractive, is annoying me. And it's annoying me because the two canes with the blooms on are now so heavy, because the blooms are fully opened, that it's not stable. So what it needs doing is that. It just needs those two canes brought in together, which is nothing more than a bit of raffia. So we'll get that done. And then I've got a similar thing to do to another one in a minute as well. Of course we've got to find the end first. Is that the end? No, that's not the end. It's just a load of loops, one of which had, oh there it is, gotcha. One of which obviously is a proper end. But if this had been a coil like I'd actually ordered, like the picture showed, then I wouldn't have all this problem. And I don't care if I waste some of this, because I want to use it up and get some more in a proper coil next time round. It's also a bright green, a bit brighter than I was anticipating as well. Right, now in the middle of this plant we do actually have a cane. Oh, I don't believe it. They hide. In that case it's a helicopter. He's been hovering up the other end of the estate somewhere, waiting for me to start filming. Right, now we'll mess him up. There's not been an aircraft of any description this morning until now. Never mind, that will probably be the police helicopter, which doubles up as the air ambulance as well, so we need that in both cases. Right, so the idea is just to do nothing more than close these two canes together so that they don't flop over, and quite honestly they'll be a better show because all the blooms will be nice and close together. It's the sort of thing, if this was going to go in a show, that I'd have to do anyway. I'm just making sure that we don't go too tight, otherwise we'll squash the blooms up together. Somewhere about like that, I think. There we go. And now that looks an awful lot better. All the blooms on show like that. I'm going to get rid of this for a while. Now, yesterday we had, and the day before, but yesterday it turned into a panic. Brilliant blue sky, clear, and raised the temperature in here to more than I'm prepared to tolerate. So I took the bubble wrap off. I'll just lift the tripod so that you can see what I'm getting at. So you're going to get seasick for a minute, but so be it. As you can see, the casing on my extractor fan completely disintegrated. It's just gone brittle, and basically the fan was bashing it, because I had to switch all this on yesterday. I had to get the extractor and the inlet fan working, and in the panic, whoops, to get the temperature down, we made a right mistake, didn't we? Because the thermostat that's here is the one that used to be over there that controls the inlet and the extractor fan. And I thought, oh God, of course I burnt one out, didn't I? I need another thermostat. So I went straight over to eBay and ordered one so that it would get here as soon as possible. And then I came back a little bit calmer and thought about it, having got an extension lead so that I could plug those two in manually, so not with a thermostat, just manually plug them in to get them going, get the temperature down. Of course, humidity dropped like hell, so Hurricane Hector had to be fired up, and I haven't had a chance to clean it. But I had a quick look, and it's actually stayed clean over the winter, mainly because it's got RO water in it. So it didn't get all the algae and stuff, so it's still clean. So I switched that on, we had everything on the go here, and during the day, the large extractor fan started creaking and juddering, and we have had a few problems with that not running as fast as it should. So back over to eBay, order a new fan, because that one is going to fail probably in the next few days. It's just going to stop working, it's just going to seize up. So we've ordered a new fan as well. But then back to the thermostat bit, I ordered a new one, then I came back out here and I thought, well hang on, that's the thermostat that's running that. And this thermostat here is doing nothing more than it's got the backup heater in it. So it's not exactly essential, is it? So I didn't really need to order a new one, I just needed to take that one over there and plug it in basically. Well, I'd have to change some of the settings. But so anyway, we've got a thermostat coming that we might not use till next winter. Nonetheless, it's a backup. It can stay in its box, quite honestly, you know. So anyway, a few bits of kit that have been needed, and these fans were bought very close together. My eBay records only go back to the start of 2019, and these aren't on there. So they were bought probably in 2018. It's 2021 now. 15 quid for 3 years of service. I'm happy with that. That's not bad value spread over a period of 3 years. So that's how that's gone. And they are starting to look manky, and a nice shiny new one will improve the appearance. What I'm probably going to do this time is the one that's coming now will be to replace the top one, which I need because that runs with the heater. Yeah. But what I might do is put the new one, try and get its stand down there, and move the lower one to the top, because the stand has been taken off that one. But there's a bit of faffing around to do to get the fans to do what I want, including the new one. And the new one needs to be the one that goes with the heater, because that's the one that switches on and off literally all night long, and sometimes all day long as well. Right, so back to the maintenance. We have this one here, which is sitting over here not being looked at. So that needs to come over to where my blooming plants are, and the majority of the plant can tuck in the back there so that just the blooms are showing. That might not be where it stays. I might switch those two round, but now I've got some faffing to do, because the next one I want to get to is right at the back of the shelf, because it's up against the glass. So we will move some plants out of the way to start with. Don't need to move all of them out of the way, but certainly need to move some of them. that huge bucket that I've just taken off of that shelf with the spectabilis in has now made room for 3 other plants. We're going to have to sort some shade netting out soon as well, because it was incredibly bright in here yesterday. There's no shade netting on the roof at all. And the sun is now high enough to be coming in the roof as well as the sides, so it's done that shift. Right, come on, out you come. Right, that's that one. And this is the prima donna. Now mine is quite a bit behind Insa's, but relatively speaking I've probably got cooler night temperatures and possibly day temperatures than he has, because obviously his are inside his actual house, whereas mine are out here. But it's just opening, it's just starting. The variation on this particular Nobile type is quite extreme, because I've had some times when the blooms have opened and they've got no pink tinges at all, they're just pure yellow. And other times the pink tinges are quite dramatic, and I don't know what causes that variation, whether it's light or temperature, combination of the two, could be all sorts. Could even be feed type or levels, or any combination of that it could be. But nonetheless, this needs repotting badly, and it will get done soon. And it will get done irrespective of what's happening with the blooms. It will get done when I see some new canes starting, which will be followed by the new roots. But it needs repotting. And this is another one that I've got buds on, just to show how far apart they are. I've got buds here that are just opening. Here, those are 2 relatively short canes. Then I've got buds on the end of this cane sticking out to the side there, and then some more on this cane round here sticking out the other side. Yeah? So I'm just going to put some raffia around and pull the whole thing in together. Again, I've got a stake in the middle, and as soon as the new growth starts, these this little cluster of old shriveled canes here are going to come off at the base. Although I'll probably leave that till when I repot it, which won't be too far away. Right, so lost the end again, idiot. Why don't you just leave a bit hanging out? Ah, there it is. We will leave a bit hanging out this time. It sounds like the workmen are actually chucking the paving slabs into a wheelbarrow, probably to take away, the old ones this is, and perhaps the hammering was just to, they may have had a concrete plinth around the outside of the pavers which they needed to break to enable them to start lifting, and if they're not actually bedded in on concrete, if they're just on sand or something, they'll just lift up. So that might be what they're up to, because certainly the noise level's gone right down, which are good. He's be listening to the gulls. He's fascinated by the gulls. I could do without them, quite honestly, seriously, I could do without them. Noisy gits. It's all very well, you know, if you don't get to see gulls because you're way away from the ocean or anything, although the gulls in this country, half of them have never seen the flipping ocean. They then ended up being land birds. They nest inland on buildings and stuff like that, so not quite what they used to be. But they have a movement phase which is interrupted by the nesting season to a degree, but you have to appreciate not all gulls will nest. Some of them will be last year's juveniles that are not old enough, and they basically feed mainly down by the coast in this area, but the coast is seawater and brackish water. It's no good to have a splash and a freshen up and to drink. So at the end of the day, when they finish their feed, they all come inland to a grassy area or something near a river to freshen up. And then first thing in the morning, they head off back to their feeding grounds. And they're incapable of flying without making a noise. And if you get 30 or 40 of them at 4 o'clock in the morning going over your house, it's not funny. So they are not my favourite bird, by a long shot. Especially as some of them, we've got a type of gull in this country called a herring gull, and it's a scavenger predator, and it's a nasty bit of work. You know, it will take young gulls out of their nests in the same area where their own nest is. They're just not nice birds. They're aggressive. If they decide to nest on a roof in say an industrial estate or something in this country, if anything comes near their nest, they'll attack it, and that includes people. They'll fly straight at you, you know, and they're quite a large piece of kit when they're on the move. They're just not nice birds. They're just not nice at all. So, and they are the noisiest by far. So, right. So let's strap that up. I'll stop it overbalancing quite so easy as well. Also, by pulling the canes in like that, it lifts the face of the blooms up so that they face towards me rather than slightly hanging down. So I'll be able to see those better. So that it's just pulled all the canes in. So that's that. Once we're getting there, this spectabile might not be able to stay here. So it's just the actual. Oh, I keep forgetting it's fragrant now. It catches me out. You know, every now and again I get, you know, a real waft. I know you don't like this sort of thing, but I'm going to cut that leaf off because it's obscuring my view of the blooms. And it's an old cane, so the leaves would drop on that in the not too distant future anyway. So now I've got a better view of the blooms. That's better. Could do with taking that one off as well. So we'll tuck that in there so that the spectabile is to the front. And then prima donna can tuck in there for now. These plants, this area only gets used for plants in bloom because it's actually a work area. And so that's that. The other bit of maintenance I'm going to do is, I should film these separately really, but can't be bothered. My two Oncidium types that grow in the house, that got repotted not that long ago, need some water. Why do they need some water? Because they're in the coconut husks. Is that not a contradiction in terms? Yes it is, and it's a problem that I'm finding with the coconut husk, I'm afraid. So this stuff has been used, okay, this is mixed with bark and charcoal, it's been used because it holds water quite a bit longer. It don't seem to be doing it. It seems to be drying incredibly quickly. So stuff that's been recently repotted, don't forget it will bed in as it ages. I'll just get some water out. But it's drying incredibly quickly. So where you've got something like my Zygopetalum that's in pure coconut husk, it's drying in 2 or 3 days. And that's not my watering frequency. That's far more frequent than I want to. So I'm having to do odd watering now because of using this. So, I mean, you can see that is bone dry. And it shouldn't be. It's an Oncidium type. And it's actually growing. It does actually have active growths. And that growth is producing roots, so it needs to be wet. Now the good thing about it is it allows an awful lot of air around the roots. So I don't, you know, I'm not going to stop using it or anything like that. I'm going to have to adjust my watering frequencies, that's all. Luckily I can reach in and do these two. And the other thing that's in there are the 3 house Phalaenopsis. And they need repotting. So they're the complete opposite at the moment. Although they're in the warmth and the dry air, they're not drying as quickly as they used to, which means the bark they're in is breaking down. And these two Oncidium types were bought around the same time, and the project that goes with those was started around the same time. So they would have been in their pots around the same amount of time, and the bark on these two Oncidium types was starting to go. So it's highly likely to be doing exactly the same with those Phalaenopsis. Right, that's those two done. I just needed to do that while I'm out here because I'll shut this all up again in a minute. I'm losing my humidity at a dramatic rate with the door open. We're down to 64% now. I don't like it. It's all right dropping low for a short while. It's by the time the plants realise and think about reacting to it, it's too late because I'll have bumped it up again. But yeah, if I turn Hurricane Hector on, it will actually fire up because the humidity is low, which as soon as I shut the door I will do, and get the fans on as well. So yeah, short and sweet today. As I say, I will, as I've got some water in there now, I'm going to do this, which I shouldn't do. These are our two Miltonia project plants, the red one and the green one. And again, we've got coconut husk, bark, charcoal and perlite in these. And because they're there, I can see them while I'm chatting here, and they're dry. And they are, this one is just starting to push its roots on the new growths, and the top of the pot is bone dry. The bottom of the pot's still slightly damp, but I want moisture around the base of these new growths permanently now to make sure those new delicate roots don't dry out and have got something to get into. Once they get about ½ an inch below the surface, they will grow at a much faster rate. So that will work. Now I will update the spreadsheet that these have been flushed today, because I'm keeping a record of everything they get. Now obviously one's getting fed at a higher rate than the other one, but not when they're flushed. They both get the same water. But we'll put that one out the way for a minute, because this is what I wanted to get out, is the zygote. So first of all, you can see the two spikes are progressing quite nicely now. Yeah, two nice spikes on there. I'm well pleased with those. We'll have a quick look at the other growth. There's still no sign of a spike coming on that. But look at the media. It's almost dry. And it shouldn't be. You'll see the difference in the colour. Colour changes dramatically. And I think after a few months, this the cocoa husk that's in use is going to start holding water a bit longer as it ages. That's certainly what bark does. So I would imagine this will probably do a similar thing. But it changes colour quite dramatically. It really does look wet when it's been watered. It carries on dripping for a while, but it's standing in a saucer and also in a clay pot, so don't worry about it dripping. It needs to come forward a bit so that those spikes don't knock into that flipping great cattleya that's there. I'll move the cattleya, that's the easiest way. Because basically we have our one spike that's clipped, another bit of maintenance. I'm going to put another clip on that higher up, hold it nice and straight. And the other spike is being allowed to be drawn to the light. So that one heads off that way towards that face, and that should let it arch over nicely. Right, now back to this one. Again, at the base of these new growths are the little new roots just starting. So these are still maintaining the similarity. They're keeping pace with each other. They're both got the 4 new growths at virtually exactly the same stage, so same length, and they're now both producing their new roots at the same time, which was predictable, but you know what plants are like, they mess you about. So we'll give that a good flush, or a good water really. It's just basically getting watered and not fed, which is a flush, I suppose, if you want to call it that. Normally I would use a larger volume of water and pour it through quite a few more times if I was doing a genuine flush, but I don't flush like that until we get into the growing season proper, when there's a lot more feed flying around. Right, so that's those two done. Keep forgetting, when I water them, they get changed over, so that on average they both get similar light conditions over a period of time. Because obviously one's just a little bit closer to that end than the other one is. But then the other one, well, they both get light from that side. Right, so that's that. Wet animals now. Your little gadget back up. Actually, that's going to have to stay there now. I like to be able to see that gadget from the house, so that I can see what's going on out here from a distance without actually having to come out here. It's not that accurate actually, but it's near enough. Right, so that's it for this session, and I've now got space over here because I've moved plants and I haven't put them back yet, so we'll do that. That's the Dendrobium Victoria Regina from Burnham's. It's now establishing a very good root system, and its little new growth is pushing on quite nicely. I'm well pleased with that. So I'm just having a think about which plants I don't want newly repotted plants too close to that glass. It's too bright. They need to get their roots going again and get a bit more established before that happens. Right, where did the others go? That one's going to be in bloom again as soon. That'll be a Latoria type. I can see a bud blasted, but most of them are okay. It's Phalaenopsis type, tall one. You can go there. You can go there. I get fooled. I bring some plants over here, especially if they're large ones, and suddenly there's a big space on a shelf, and I rearrange all the plants like that. Of course, when this one's got to go back, there's no room. Oh dear. Right, that's that. It's difficult to say exactly what the fragrance is on that. It's spicy sweet. But I can't define what the sweet element is or which spice it is. It's just a sweet smell, like you would class vanilla as a sweet smell, or chocolate as a sweet smell, and spicy like cinnamon or, but it's sweet spicy. That's about the best I can do. Okay, the last bit of this, which you choose to, it's relevant if you're interested in that sort of thing. If you're not, then obviously you don't need to watch it. But basically it's just a screen capture off the computer going over the CITES stuff that Mark sent me. He said it would be interesting to get it published on YouTube, and that's the only way I can think to do it, because it's effectively a PDF file. The only way I can get that into a YouTube video is to film it. So I've done a screen capture on the computer. So thanks for dropping by. As I say, a bit shorter this week, but there's a few projects. The actual 2021 project Orchids projects have to start now, because I said I was going to start them a bit earlier, probably towards the end of February. Well, I've blown that, haven't I? It's the last day of February today. But also, within a couple of days, we hit that 11 hours. And by the end of March, we're up around 13 hours. March is the month of change. It is the real start of the growing season, when things start responding. In some cases, quite dramatically. So we'll get onto those 4 project videos over the period of March, get those done. We'll get the indoor Phalaenopsis repotted, because again that's another project along in the sidelines. So there's quite a few projects going on at the moment. I'll keep track of them all, won't I? And I'll see you next time. Video clip of the CITES stuff coming up next. So bye for now, see you again. Okay, let's have a look at this. I've forgotten how to do this. That's it. Hopefully that's recording. This is the document I was asked to show people. It's specifically aimed at the UK, as there are actual charges mentioned, but nonetheless the principle would apply to any export import of orchids between two countries where CITES applies, which is most countries. There are a few who decided they didn't want to get involved, but not many, and chances are most of those countries haven't got any orchids. Anyway, this has been devised by Marc De Bra. His channel is TOEKIE WORLD. Those details will come up as we scan down through, and I thought the easiest way for me to do this little bit is, first of all, you now have it in a video, which means you can pause it and read it for yourself. But for those who can't work out how to do that, I'll read it out because it might go a bit quick otherwise. Now obviously from January the 1st, Britain was no longer in the European Union, which means that CITES now applies between all of the EU and the UK. So that you can think of the EU now as a single country as far as this is concerned. So basically these rules, the CITES rules, are international rules on the import and export of endangered species, and although I don't believe this is correct, this is the way it works. You can't get it changed. All orchids are classed as endangered species, including the mass-produced Phalaenopsis out of the big nurseries in the likes of Germany and Holland, Netherlands. That is stupid, but that's how it works, because they can't be bothered to differentiate between species that could have been collected in the wild and something that's never been near the wild. So that's the way it is. So all orchids are on this list in one shape or form. Some do actually come on the critically endangered list. Irrespective of that, this lot applies. So how it works, if you were in the UK and you wanted to get some orchids from the EU, this is the procedure. And once you've seen it, you'll probably not want to go anywhere near it. CITES permit must be applied for in the country of origin. So this is the person in the EU that you're going to get the orchids from. Nursery, single entity person, anybody, yeah, where these orchids are going to be got from. This is the seller or sender. Yeah, okay. Price for CITES permit is calculated per species or hybrid. That's come straight out of the document. It's incorrect. It's not species, it's genera. Not species or hybrid. I believe you can export 30 different types of Cattleyas under a single document, but don't quote me on it. So take care with that bit. But the people dealing with this don't understand the difference between a species and genera. They probably don't know the difference between a species or a hybrid either. Anyway, the CITES document, CITES permit, normally applies to 1 to 100 plants of the same species, probably genera. In Belgium, the price per species hybrid is €49 plus an additional CITES application fee. This whole procedure is human orientated. It's not automated. It's people. People cost money. It's a job perpetuating system, basically. By putting it in place, you automatically give people a job and they get paid money. Yeah? So note that every country has its own fees. You must also specify why you want to export. After approval, you must first pay before you get the CITES papers. So you don't pay when you get them, you pay up front. And it can take 2 to 6 weeks before you will actually get your CITES permit to allow you to export or sell your orchids from the EU. Right, let's move down a bit. The seller sender then needs to send you, the buyer or the importer, a copy of the CITES permit. Yeah. With this, you can then apply for the CITES import form in your country. So you must have already got a copy of the export form from the sender seller before you can apply for the import one. You had enough yet? Price for one species hybrid in the UK is £75 for 1 to 100 plants of the same species.
Again, it takes 2 to 6 weeks after paying the fee that you will get your paperwork. Yeah? So you may already have taken 2 months to get to this point when you get your import documents. Now you've got to send a copy of your import license CITES documentation to the seller or sender, because he's got to put it with his paperwork before actually sending it to you. So it starts off with the seller in the EU. Yeah, paperwork comes to the UK, which then has to be used to get some more paperwork to then send a copy of back to the originator. So it's like a cycle. Yeah, all good fun, isn't it? You haven't finished yet. Once the exporter or sender gets the copy of the import CITES permit, he can apply for the photosanitary certificate. And this is where it all falls apart, because it's people-based and they will make mistakes, get it wrong, and take longer than they say they will. And as soon as you add time into this factor, you could end up wasting your money, but you still have to pay. The price in Belgium for this is €44 for half an hour. Do you think you can inspect satisfactorily 100 plants in half an hour? Because I don't. If multiple plants need to be checked, an extra fee per extra 15 minutes is charged. It's just a money-making scheme, isn't it? These people who actually supply these photosanitary certificates, they can sit around drinking coffee, they can take as long as they like and send you the bill. It's outrageous. Anyway, that's what most sellers will. That's why most sellers will ask a specific fee to be paid in advance. Depending on the country, fees may vary. Yeah, they will. Normally, photosanitary certificates are only valid for a limited time, 36 to 48 hours. So from that certificate being awarded in, say, Germany, you've got 48 hours to get those plants to the UK and get them inspected, or the certificate is no longer valid and your plants will probably be confiscated and destroyed because you haven't got the right paperwork. The paperwork has to be valid. Okay, so it's normally applied for on the day of shipping. So you've got all your plants out ready for inspection and you apply for somebody to come and do a photosanitary. They may turn up. I suppose they probably will turn up, but I don't know. And if they don't turn up, well, maybe they'll come the next day then. Yeah? And all the arrangements you've made to receive the plants in the UK are now a day out. So CITES permits, either import or export, are normally valid for 6 to 12 months. So at least that paperwork lasts a while. After expiration or not used, the permits must be resent to CITES administration in the country where they were applied for. Right, so when the package arrives at customs in the UK, if you didn't think you had problems before, this is where you're probably going to get your problems, because customs at the UK first are not used to doing this to any great extent, although they would be getting plants from other countries, Thailand, you know, all the other sort of importers are involved here. But the paperwork is checked, and often also the contents of the parcel. So they're now going to undo your nicely wrapped orchids that have been really nicely wrapped by the sender, seller, the nursery, all individually wrapped, and they're going to rip that all off to have a look at the plants. And they're perfectly entitled to do that. And are they going to put it back carefully? Of course they are. And then there's taxes. Taxes are calculated on the invoice for the merchandise, i.e. based on the total value of the plant, what you bought them for, basically. Depending on the shipping company, you'll be notified the amount of taxes to pay either in advance or upon delivery. So if you don't get notified of these taxes in advance, then you're going to get a bill upon delivery that you don't know what it is. You can probably calculate it. And at that time, the photosanitary certificate must still be valid. Otherwise, bang goes your plants. Now, at the moment, this was based in February 2001, and it's the 28th today, so it's just about still valid. There are only a few shipping companies that will ship to the UK because of problems with the UK customs. This will eventually sort itself out, but it could take a while. And how do you know it's sorted itself out? You can't ask them. They'll say, we're doing the best we can. Anyway, so those are the sort of fees you're looking at. And don't forget, these fees apply to 1 to 100 plants. So for one plant, you could be paying these fees. You've got your export CITES fee per species or hybrid, your import CITES fee in the other country per species, and your phytosanitary permit, which is short-lived and must be valid. Plus, you've got your import taxes in the country of arrival, calculated on the value of the invoice. But it has a minimum fee. Yeah, that's nice to know, isn't it? Some shipping companies charge an extra fee for doing all the paperwork for you. And then, not to be forgotten, I love this bit, don't forget the value of the plants that you've just bought. Right, exceptions to this, take this with a pinch of salt. An exception to the new CITES rules is made for Northern Ireland. So at the moment, although there are rows and arguments brewing, so things possibly could change, you can currently import to Northern Ireland from the EU without all this paperwork, but you cannot then import them to the UK. Sorry, to England, Scotland or Wales. So Northern Ireland's being treated as an exception. You can trade between the EU and Northern Ireland, but you cannot move those goods on into the rest of the UK without all these rules kicking in. So the border now is not between the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, which shouldn't even exist. It's now between Northern Ireland and the rest of the UK. It's called the Irish Sea. And there's another exception to that, and that is flasks, yeah, things in sterile containers growing on a medium, blah, 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 blah. You will still need a phytosanitary certificate for that, but those inspections are relatively easy to do on the grounds that if you break the seal on the flask, it's no longer sterile, and there would be no point in having a phytosanitary certificate. And then there's the places where you can actually apply for these things. Okay, so that's come from Marc De Bra. A couple of people have read it and said, yep, that's about how it is. It's not only complicated, it's people orientated, so things will go wrong. People will get things wrong, people will take longer than they're supposed to. Charges will vary, I suspect, and quite honestly, you would need to be doing this in bulk to even consider thinking it's worthwhile. And who knows, some of the UK nurseries may still think it's worthwhile. You could do a quick calculation actually. If you're looking at about €50, let's say we're looking at 100 Phalaenopsis, yeah? 100 Phalaenopsis hybrids from one of the mass producers. They're selling them at, well, last time I checked, they were selling them at that point of sale for something like €3 or €4. That's probably a bit higher now. Let's say €5 for 100 Phalaenopsis. You've then got your €50 for your paperwork in Europe. You've got 75 quid for your paperwork in the UK. Then you've got your phytosanitary to sort out, and then you've got your taxes. So your fees could be heading up around £200 in UK money, possibly more, depends on the taxes, which I don't know, and it depends on the cost of that phytosanitary. People, you're paying wages there rather than for the certificate. You're paying for somebody to come and do a job, yeah. So £200 plus, I suspect, to get 100 Phalaenopsis from a mass producer into the UK. Average it out. It's not that much per plant, is it? Really. If you were going to retail that plant at 15 quid, okay, it may now be 17 or 19 or even 20. It's not dramatic. However, if you were trying to import 5 Cattleya species, I hate to think what the individual cost per plant would be. So there you go, that's that lot, and thanks to Mark for sending that across, and I'll put a link to his channel in the description for the video. So you can see that it almost makes a mockery of the whole business of the mass-produced pure hybrid phalaenopsis, you know, that are destined to go to supermarkets and, you know, large volumes of plants, in the hundreds of thousands, if you know, if not millions. It would be millions actually, and all that sort of trade does not need paperwork like this mucking it about. So maybe something will be done one day, but until such time as something is done, this is what applies. Okay, so I'm sure once you've done it a couple of times you'd find it straightforward and filling in the forms might be easy, but I bet the first time you ever see a CITES export or import form it's going to blow your mind. I mean, I'm not even bothering to look because I've got no intention of getting involved. If I ever get involved with plants from the EU again, it will be via somebody else doing all the work and I just pay some money because it's something special that I want. But I doubt if it's going to happen somehow.